Good evening. Over to you, Blue.
Good evening and welcome to a very special Sunday morning Jason Burns Report Hangout. We are joined by Boiled Piss, and we are going to be reading from Jason's long overdue book, Under the Radar. Start us off there, would you, Boiled Piss?
No one would have believed that in the first decades of the 21st century that atheist affairs were being watched from the timeless wilds of Lancashire. Sam Arris could not have dreamed that he was being scrutinized as someone with a microscope studies creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. Ozzy and Blue did not even consider the possibility of intelligent life in that box room at Auntie's. And yet, across the Gulf of Manchester, a mind immeasurably inferior to ours regarded Sam Arris with envious eyes. And slowly and surely, Jason drew his plans against him.
Again, welcome to a very special Sunday morning Jason Burns Report, where we will be reading from Under the Radar, the long-threatened book about Sam Harris, his life and thought.
It's good to be with you.
It is good to be with you. Love to everybody out there. My website is jasonburnspreacher.com. No, sorry. Let's get right to it.
Can I just say love to everyone out there?
Yes,
good to be with you.
There is love. It's good to be with you. Love to everyone out there. My website is jasonburnspreacher.com. You can reach me on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get right to it there, Boiled Piss. Let's get right to the beginning of this. Maybe your first time seeing it. Under the Radar, the life and thought of Sam Harris. Can you present that for me, man?
Yes. Here we go.
Oh, there it is.
The life and thought, because he only has one, obviously, of Sam Harris, Jason Burns. Unbelievable. Here we go. Under the Radar.
Wait a minute. Hold on. There are different fonts.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
First, you have to notice the various fonts and spacing. This book was apparently, it says written by Jason Burns and a chimp with a typewriter, but it doesn't mention that bit. But I think it was proofread by Stevie Wonder. Under the Radar, Meditations on the Thoughts. So within a page, Sam Harris has now had more than one thought. There is as you'll note, the P-reference.
P-reference for the reader.
For the reader.
P-reference.
The P-reference. It gives me great pleasure and joy to introduce you to a worker for the Lord whose zeal and labor is outstanding. I love Pastor Jason and his love for the truth. I'll try to actually keep to the grammar, but I might run out of breath.
Okay.
I've got my son ready with a defibrillator in case I pass out. Since the beginning of man's existence in the Garden of Eden, Satan has been using every weapon, every tactic, and every strategy to hinder God's truth and his will from being fulfilled on earth. Throughout the ages, he has lied, deceived, and blinded the eyes of men from seeing the truth. This is what engages the heart of Pastor Jason Burns in this book. Who is to be blamed for the crisis the world face today? What is the meaning of these times? Satan's effort to misrepresent the character of God is still at work. Those who fail to recognize Satan and his strategies will not be able to stand, especially if you've had as much to drink as I have. They will be deceived to unfold the scenes of the controversies between truth and error, to reveal the wiles of Satan. Not putting blame on religions, Pastor Jason Burns pulls us out from the pit of lies and calls us away from useless controversies back to the Bible to know the truth. Fucking hell. And also ripping the mask off and exposing Satan as never before. The details are masterfully presented to you in this great book, Under the Radar. I invite you to read it. And that is, this P-reference was by Dorcas Kukua Kobina from Jesus Girl Ministry, copyright of Jason Burns 2017. Copyright of Jason Burns. Who knows? But Blue has a word on Dorcas Kukua Kabina.
Dorcas Kukua Kabina, Jesus Girl Ministries. Well, I'm wondering who that is. Well, Jason, this is the other big news. We're reading, but we've got some big Jason Burns news right here because we have to help Jason. We have to save Jason. Here's what I'm talking about.
So now a few things about my personal life. I'm hoping, by God's grace, to get married. There's a lady in Ghana that I need to go and visit and to get engaged.
Okay, we're stopping right here. Jason Burns, listen to me now. How do you know that is actually a woman in Ghana? Okay. First of all,
he's from Jesus Girl Ministry.
Jesus Girl Ministry. Okay, well here's some more. Okay, let's hear some more.
And I haven't got the resources to do that. I haven't got the resources to
the goats.
Going to take.
What were you saying?
He hasn't got the resources or the goats.
Yes. Yeah. What's the bride price here? The dowry. You better have a lot of goats and bulls and chickens or something, Jason.
400 or 500.
Yeah. So, see, Jason is going to be on an EasyJet flight with a cow, with a bellman, four goats, 3 sheep, box of chickens. That's it. Easy. I don't think EasyJet go from Manchester to Ghana, but that should be interesting.
That's if this is a woman. Hold on, here's more.
And get a plane flight over there, and then a few £100 to do the engagement. And then after that, I've got to go back and get married. And then I've got visas to sort out and all these things. And then on top of that, a house, on top of that, a salary, and all the rest of it.
Yes. So not only does Jason need money to go get married to a woman in Ghana, he also needs money for a house and a regular salary. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Jason,
he could take.
Man, you know what an anchor marriage is? Do you know that woman just wants you for a fucking passport? I mean, you cannot be this. Not to mention marrying a foreigner. What's wrong with you, man? That's giving up. I ain't getting no Russian bride or no shit like that. What the hell's wrong with you, Jason? We got to stop this. We got to stop this.
I mean, good luck to him if he's found the love of his life. But if Dorcas is the one that's writing his preface, and
actually those paragraphs were better than most of his. So.
Well, yeah, but then is he met her yet? Is he? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions.
Let's assume they've talked on the internet, and she's probably actually a woman. But you were telling me offline that the British authorities are not going to allow this, or they might not allow it.
Well, I wouldn't have thought that they would. If he goes to Ghana and gets engaged and married in Ghana, and then comes back with Dorcas, or even at a later stage, they're going to say, well, how long have you known each other? Tell us about the relationship. So there might be a doubt whether they'd even let her in, let alone the goats and the chickens and all the family. I mean, he's got to build a house first, so he's probably going to take some bamboo and some trees with him or something. I just got this in my head. I've got this picture of Jason with his top off, chopping down trees in some remote forest in Ghana to build a house for the family while they're all sitting watching. I don't know. Good luck to him anyway, but yeah, don't get caught up in any scams, Jason. Just
yes, we have to. Jason's being scammed. That's obvious.
She might like your preface, but she might not touch your penis. Anyway,
let's go back to the
reading.
This reading of this great. We'll come back to the marriage issue.
Here we are. A fantastic picture of Sam Harris, who looks a bit like Doctor Who, but then we'll pass that. We've got the introduction, or introduction, Rivers of
Broadcast
Blood.
yourself so we can see that, or me.
Oh, yes, sorry, I do. So yeah, bear with me. See, this is completely unprofessional.
It's all right. I'll
I
talk.
don't expect anything
Have to
else.
stop him from getting married.
Right, there we go.
Okay.
Hopefully everyone can see that. We've got on the left here, the Dorcas Kakua Kabina Jesus Girl Ministry P. Refus. And we've got, I'll go back one there. There's the title, The Life and Thought of Sam Harris. And then by page 2, Sam Harris has 2 thoughts, because it's, or at least more than one, meditations on the thoughts of Sam Harris. So, the I introduction, Rivers of Blood, capital A, space S. So as I sat in my room watching the news, I could not believe what I saw. Bodies laid over London Bridge. That makes sense. That's the opening sentence. It makes no sense at all. The news reporter informed us some crazy guy drove a car onto the pavement, knocking down passers-by. That's passers-by, all one word. The man crashed the car and ran to Parliament, where he stabbed a policeman to death. I sat unable to speak. A few days later, the news reported it was a Muslim extremist who had planned and executed the jihadist deed. I felt angry that little was being done to stop this violent extremism in my own country and around the world. I felt deep emotional sympathy for the policeman, his relatives, and the poor victims of that day. Then I was at loss to explain to the public's reaction a few days before the London attack, when President Trump announced a ban on any person entering America from a number of Muslim countries known to be hotbeds of Islamic extremism. Breath. They called the president racist. I thought he was being sensible. The president seemed to have sympathy for the persecuted Christians in the Middle East, but few appreciated his concern for the Christian minority. I was even more confused when Milo, the gay Republican, caused a riot when he wanted to talk about his pro-Trump ideas at Berkeley University. It seemed to me the political winds of America and the world was changing. The time, I noticed that he does full stop and then just does another word, no space.
Right.
The times seemed to be more unstable by the day. Irrelevant sentence, who cares? The more I thought, the more I heard news of Muslim extremists driving lorries into people, blowing up airports and shooting police. The more I realized the West was in deep crisis. Not nearly as the crisis of your writing, Jason. The West seemed unwilling to realize a Trojan horse had entered into its nation states with an ideology more deadly than Hitler's Nazism. That's
Nazism. Nazism.
The political correctness of the age refused to act. It's like what? The political correctness of the age refused to act. What is it? A person? Hello, I'm Mr. Political Correctness. While the extreme right began to boil and be galvanized into confrontational politics. What was more worrying was to see Christianity sidelined in the UK, America, and other Western nations. Evangelists in the UK, like Michael Overd, arrested in Bristol for preaching the gospel. Okay, who's Michael Overd? We don't get an introduction. Don't get to it. It was troubling to note the judge took exception to this preacher using the King James Bible. Such an attitude could be advocated by a senior judge in the UK, caused me alarm and deep concern for the crumbling of Western democracy. The King James Bible has been at the heart of British culture for over 300 years. Just on a cultural level, one should appreciate such a book, let alone on a religious and philosophical level. So how does Sam Harris fit into all this, you may ask? How does Sam Harris fit into all this, Jason? Sam Harris... Look at the font on this shit. Look. Anyway, Sam Harris wrote Sam Harris wrote an important book called The End of Faith. Good. In that book, he explores the role of Islam and religion in the world today. He tackles some of the vital issues surrounding atheism, Islam, and Christianity from his perspective as a new atheist. I wish to explore Sam Harris' life and thought, using his ideas as a platform to engage with the pressing issues of the time. I'll read that sentence again. I wish to explore Sam Harris' life and thought using his ideas as a platform to engage with the pressing issues of the time. I hope to show that Christianity is rational and relevant to the challenges we face in the modern world. I hope to show that atheism and Islam have not the rational foundation to help the West in crisis, but only add to the problems we face today. I see rivers of blood is going to spill in the West in the next 20 years.
Oh my God. Rivers of blood is going to spill.
I can't see it what anyone's writing in the chat. So if the West does not recover her Christian foundations, then she will collapse. So the West is a woman, apparently. Already I see the West is finished and in a state of collapse. So apparently if the West does not recover her Christian foundations, she will collapse. And by the next sentence, the West has already collapsed. According to Jason, he then sees the West is finished and in a state of collapse. I think it might be too late. I think it might be too late. Not T-double-O. So hang on, he's going, if in the next 20 years, the West must recover her Christian foundation or collapse. Then in the next sentence, he sees the West is finished and already collapsed, and then says, I think it might be too late. But if anyone is willing to listen, I hope this book will open your eyes to a different way of thinking. Like mental illness. This work is not, I shouldn't say that actually, because I've just taken the piss out. I'll just admonish someone for saying someone else is mentally ill, so I shouldn't say that. Anyway, if anyone is willing, I need to get drunk quicker. If anyone is willing to listen, I hope this book will open your eyes to a different way of thinking. This work is not an exhaustive exposition to Sam Harris thought. No shit. Sam Harris thought, oh my God. It is an introduction and will serve as a primer on some key issues he raises in his book End of Faith and a few other key works. And then Jason goes, puts some notes on his introduction with a link I can barely see because the font is so small. It's from Al Jazeera News. Donald Trump wipe Islamic terror groups. And then we've got a link to Christian Concern, The Guardian, and The Telegraph. Great. Jeff
has just said, Principled Uncertainty, he is the greatest writer of our time. And of course, I agree with that.
Good to see you around, Jeff. Good to see you back.
Yeah, greatest writer of all time. That's true, man. That's true.
So that's the introduction. And now this for me, because I read this earlier, and then I had to lie down afterwards. This chapter 1, The Life of Sam Harris, is amazing. You will note that Jason, in the space of 4 paragraphs, well, I'll read it. Sir Sam Harris is famous for being one of the main leaders behind the new atheism. Sam was brought up in a secular home. His father was Jewish and his mother a Quaker. Religion was discussed, but the family held to secular values. He was born in 1967.
I need to stop it right there. I'm sorry. It's the other way around.
What's that?
I think his mother's Jewish and his father's Quaker.
Oh, so he got that wrong. Jesus Christ.
I'm not sure.
He was born,
maybe.
He was born in 1967, April the 9th. That's even backwards. Then, in the next paragraph, Jason jumps from 1967 straight to, considering this chapter is the life of Sam Harris, he goes from his birth to university. So he just wipes out nearly 20 years of Sam Harris's life.
Nothing about how he grew up rich. Nothing about how he's the son of a celebrity, because Susan Harris was a big TV producer, still is.
Nothing about his childhood.
That. Nothing about growing up in Southern California.
Nope, just goes from 1967, he was born. Next sentence, it was 1986. He entered Stanford University. He experimented with drugs as part of his exploration into religious experiences. So Sam Harris was born, went to university, took drugs. After
only 2 years study, who are you to cast that stone, Jason?
He left university and traveled to India. He dabbled in various meditation techniques from Buddhist and Hindu meditation masters. Makes him sound like it's like some sort of kung fu film, isn't it?
Yes.
Religious parents, he goes to university, takes drugs, then goes to Grasshopper. In 1997, so now Jason in the next paragraph has gone from 86 and leapt forward to 1997. He returned to Stanford University. So he's obviously in India from 1988 to 1997, doing meditation and getting stoned by the sound of it. Yeah, he returned to Stanford University, studying philosophy at BA level. He eventually completed a PhD in cognitive neuroscience at the University of California in 2009. So now we've gone to 1997 and we've gone forward another 12 years to 2009. So in the space of a paragraph, we've got through 30 years of Sam Harris's life. What is interesting is that he had little training in Christian or Islamic theology. Well, he's too busy getting stoned and meditating. One can see he was not equipped to deal on a theological level. They come
What?
under.
Hold on. Not equipped to deal on a theological level.
Yeah.
What are you in the ghetto? He ain't equipped to deal. You can't deal. You can't deal with that.
Well, he was too busy dabbling in drugs and meditating,
Right.
lying down, talking to grasshoppers, the Hindu masters, Buddhist masters, doing kung fu and shit.
Oh, look. Go to the next paragraph. I love it.
Yeah, it says they come under blistering attack from Harris lectures and books, but his life shows no expertise. Spelled PERTEES in these two
Expertise.
So he doesn't say who they are that are coming under this blistering attack from Harris, unless he means
Christianity and
Islamic theology. So now we leap forward 2 more years to 2011. In 2011, Harris began writing his book called End of Faith, a reaction to the attack on the 2 towers in New York and the rise for jihadism on a global stage. He was also angry at the rise of President Bush and the entering of fundamentalist Christianity from the Bush administration. He joined forces with Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and Daniel Dennett, militant atheists who had one agenda, and that was to defend the so-called Enlightenment heritage against the irrationality of religion. This is the best bit. They was nicknamed the 4 Horsemen. On both sides of the Atlantic, they threw books, lectures, jokes, and uncompromising intolerance at Christianity and Islam. So I think he means through, as in THROUGH. In other words, he wants to say.
I disagree.
They.
I think he actually means throw. He thinks the atheists were throwing stuff.
No, I think he should have been on both sides of the Atlantic. They, through books, lectures, and jokes, aimed at an uncompromising intolerance at Christianity. But he said through. It makes it sound like they all just met up in a pub and started throwing books at each other, telling jokes, lectures. What? So, but they was nicknamed the 4 Horsemen anyway.
I've got to stop you right here. In the paragraph where Jason says, in 2011, Harris began writing his book called The End of Faith. Jason, that book was published in 2004. Okay. So you are.
So
he didn't
published 7 years before Jason thought he started writing it.
Right. 7 years before. Wow. Yeah. You'll have to correct that in the next edition, Jason.
This is edition 2, I think, as well. There's 2 editions for sale on Amazon, and one is I think this is the updated version.
This is the update. Oh wow. Oh wow.
As far as I know, I might be wrong.
Yeah, 2004 is when the book came out. You cretin.
I mean, I paid £3.21 for this. Any comments from anyone in the chat? Interesting. Is anyone still there?
Oh, we got plenty of people. There's laughter.
Oh, good. Right. So then we've got to 2011, and then Jason says, for the rest of his life, Harris has published a number of books, engaged in debates with William Lane Craig and other high-profile Christian religious apologists. So the rest of his life makes it sound like Sam Harris is dead for the rest of his life. He's not dead. Anyway, he has appeared on chat shows and the news repeatedly. Not in this country, he hasn't. He remains a controversial figure in American life and culture. Jason then says, you might disagree with his brand of atheism, as I know I do, but you can't take away from the fact he is an outstanding communicator. He has put across his ideas with winsome eloquence. He has shown he is able to hold his own in debate. Hold his own what? He can be politically astute, spotting issues that more erudite intellectuals have failed to highlight. When the history of atheism is written in the next century, he says, if we have another century, Sam Harris will have a prominent place, and rightly so.
Wow, that's very generous of Jason, I must say. Wow.
There are some very small links at the bottom of the page on the right there. Some links to Does God Exist? Something about David Seagull, and a link to another book by Sam Harris, and MDMA Caution with Sam Harris. That must be where Sam Harris takes ecstasy, I guess. I don't know. So that's the chapter.
That's the life of Sam Harris right there. Wow.
that on the right there, that sort of, if you put that on a page of A4, it probably wouldn't make halfway. That is the life of Sam Harris. Good God. So now there's on the left there, obviously, this is a properly, you can see it's very well justified. There's a massive gap there.
And reason.
Yeah.
That's all I see. And reason.
See,
faith and reason, I see.
And reason. Very well spaced, as you can see.
Yes, beautiful.
Beautiful. Trying to drag it out a little bit. 3 different fonts, 4 different sizes on this page.
Who's he quoting here? In this little font? I can't even read it.
Well, the top left, that's the leftover from the previous chapter that he didn't quite manage to. That should have been at the bottom of this page, but obviously because he spaced it out so well in the middle of the chapter, the beginning of the chapter, didn't have room just to think, I'll just put that so it looks good. But no, it's just tacked onto the start of this one. Copyright of Bobby Robinson, 2017. So the copyright has suddenly changed from Jason Burns to Bobby Robinson, whoever he is. Which is
free Bobby Robinson. I'm sorry.
That's Tommy. So yeah, so apparently Jason didn't write that bit. I don't know. That's bizarre. I would think probably the template that Jason used had copyright of Bobby Robinson, and Jason forgot to change it. So chapter 2, Faith and Reason. The history of Western philosophy is intertwined with Christian theology. You might not like this, but it is a fact. I have before me the history of Western philosophy by Bertrand Russell. About a quarter way in the book, he notices St. Augustine and his contribution to philosophy. He comments on John the Scot, St. Thomas Aquinas. That's it. Comma, St. Thomas Aquinas. A person with just a small understanding of Western philosophy would acknowledge Christianity's contribution to philosophical debate. St. Augustine, or St. Augustine, St. Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas, it should be, not just St. Aquinas. Anyway, St. Anselm, Descartes, Leibniz are just a few of many thinkers who crossed philosophy and theology. The role of faith and reason figured much in their work. No full stop again. The subject of epistemology, how we know what we know, these thinkers wrestled with such profound questions and wrote important contributions to such thought. However, no, there's just no comma. It just reads, the role of faith and reason figured much in their work. The next sentence, the subject of epistemology, how we know what we know, these thinkers wrestled with such profound questions and wrote important contribution to such thought. Okay, I need a drink at that moment.
I need several, man. I think he missed a parentheses there.
Yeah, I think he missed a lot. However, Sam Harris starts his book reflecting on epistemology in a naive and simplistic fashion, 2 full stops. So there's no comma after however, just however Sam Harris starts his book reflecting on epistemology in a naive and simplistic fashion. He does so ignoring such a rich and complex what the fuck? He does so ignoring such a rich and complex subject. He also ignores the vast contribution Christianity has given on the topic. Then we've got a couple of copy and paste. We have no idea where that's from. I presume that's from Sam Harris's book, but it doesn't say.
Skip to the last paragraph that starts the other main issue. I love this one.
The other main issue is attitude God does not endorse. You are either a modernist or postmodernist. But if you are a postmodernist, you can never get away from modernism. Sam Harris is a modern.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. You are either a modernist or a postmodernist. But if you are a postmodernist, you can never get away from modernism. I'm sorry. Wow. I need another hit of weed. Jesus Christ. What did...
Sam Harris is a modernist, apparently. David Hume was a good philosophical thinker, but his attitude to black people was not good. Fucking hell. I've got to read that. Sam Harris equates belief and action as synonymous. First, what does he mean by belief? It is a highly complex philosophical term. Immanuel Kant noted we have presuppositions and evidence Immanuel Kant noted we have presuppositions and evidence, 2 components to our beliefs. I think he means TO. Also note that Sam seems to be advocating pragmatism, the idea something is correct on the positive or negative action a belief produces. Wrong ideas does not mean someone will act in a wrong way. Fucking hell. Many atheists act in good ways, but I would disagree with the beliefs they have. Right ideas does not mean right action. David Hume was a good philosophical thinker, but his attitude to black people was not good.
Yes, well, whose was in the 1700s, Jason?
What's it got to do with the fact that he was basically? Why bring David Hume up? He's talking about philosophy and just says, well, he had some good ideas, but he was a racist. What I'm trying to show here is that, comma,
Is your ass.
Sam Harris is playing the black and white game. Was he a minstrel? He has a political agenda, so it is in his interest to simplify issues, to make clear enemies by strawmanning their position and by... I can't even get a breath. That sentence. Right. Deep breath. He has a political agenda, so it is in his interest to simplify issues, to make clear enemies by strawmanning their position and by avoiding the complex interchange of ideas in life. He wants to make political capital and... Oh my God, I'm going to get all dizzy now. He wants to make political capital and advance his cause, so the best way is to show who the enemy is. Once he has set up the logic, i.e. we act on our beliefs, once he has grounded you on that logic, truth in it, no doubt, he then goes for the jugular. The Christians and Muslims have religious books with bad ideas, making bad beliefs, so we will inevitably have evil from these religions. Then he just prints another paragraph, I presume, is from Sam Harris's book, but we don't get told that. Now we get to the point. All these religious books, in short, poison people's... I'll do that again. All these religious books, in short, poison people's minds with division. First, is it fair, spelled F-A-R-E, to equate the Quran as the same as the Bible? Are all religions the same? No. I think Sam Harris is making a simplistic case. Jesus died on the cross and advocated non-violence. The Prophet Muhammad led soldiers into battle. Can you really compare the Quran and the Bible as the same in content when the two founders of these books are totally different? Jesus' belief was to love. Muhammad's belief was to fight. And Muhammad suddenly lost an M in his name there. Using Sam Harris' own logic, they are not the same. Oh. Now, let me get the modernist bit. He believes in truth, however he defines it. Now, if he takes issue with a God who says one thing is correct and another is not correct, how is that different from his modernism that says his secularism is correct, but Christianity is not correct?
What? What?
I know. Tell me about it. Inclusivism is a dream, you know, Blue. It's a dream.
Oh, it's a dream.
Yeah. If you are secular, you push out religion, but then accuse the Christian or the religious pushing out the secular. Yeah. You can't have it both ways, you know. We can all look for the bad in religions and atheism, but most people are tolerant, whether religious or not. No, they're not.
That's not true.
He is complaining that religion demonizes groups, but he does the exact thing he accuses religion as doing. He is demonizing all religious people. So in short, he equates all religions as the same. This is not the case. He also demonizes other faiths. The direct complaint he practices. Another paragraph in a very small font. Can't you read it? I haven't got a magnifying glass. Right. He then complains that religion can't be criticized in the public domain. This is a problem with political correctness and not with Christianity. Political correctness sees all religions as true, so does not want any public statement as saying one religion is not correct. It's...
I love this gets back to making political correctness an actual person with beliefs and ideas and who does things.
It is an epistemological issue in Western culture and not with Christianity. Having said this, radical Islam does produce a culture of fear where academics fear to criticize Islam. The scholarship, this word scholarship gets mentioned. The scholarship on the Quran, he's now changed the Quran from spelling it K-O-R-A-N to using it Q-U-R-A-N. The scholarship on the Quran textual criticism has been impeded in the West down to fear of intimidation from Muslim extremists, but I put the problem at the door of political correctness as many Western academics in Quranic studies have left this agenda of post-colonial self-flagellation. I had to take a deep breath just to read a sentence. It's mad.
I think he copied this from the Unabomber.
Well, this bit is supposedly what his writing. So Western academics live in the shadow of post-colonialism and don't want to give the Muslim world the feeling they are revving a colonial imperils met narrative on them. Revving? What the? Colonial imperils met narrative? Don't know. Perhaps Jason's writing in a language I haven't ever come across before. This is not the fault of Islam, Christianity, or religion, but historical, political, and ideological foundations of political correctness. Is everyone still with us? Oh, I've got to have a drink. You still there, Blue?
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't know how much more of this I can take, but yeah, keep going. Keep going. Yeah, we got people in the chat room.
Okay.
Everyone's
right. The whole problem with this writing of Harris again is it lacks the depth to be truly engaging. He has used the words belief, faith, book without reference to the complexity and profundity religion and Christianity have given to the area of epistemology. He does not mention reformed epistemology of Alvin Plantinga, who has produced a number of influential works in analytical philosophy. He does not mention presuppositional philosophers such as John Frame. He does not engage with William Lane Craig, who uses classical epistemological method. He does not engage with Islam philosophers or theologians and knows nothing of Indian philosophy and the religious contribution. He went to India, for fuck's sake. How can he say he doesn't know anything of it? According to Jason's Life of Sam Harris, he was in India for 15 years, getting stoned out of his mind and learning all about Indian stuff.
Well, he was too busy getting stoned to learn anything.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And I don't like this. He does not engage with William Lane Craig. Didn't he just said he had a debate with William Lane Craig? So how is that not engaging?
Yeah, we'll go back slightly to the Life of Sam Harris, where he mentions. Sure, he said he had a yes. For the rest of his life, he published a number of books engaged in debates of William Lane Craig. And then he says he didn't. So that's not good. He does not engage with William Lane Craig. What he says. Okay.
Oy vey.
That's a boring bit. I can't even read those sentences. The topic of faith and reason. Blah, 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 blah. This is a travesty of a book, as it's this. The irony. He says Sam Harris's book is a travesty of a book, as it sacrifices thousands of years of philosophical thought at the altar of a mean-spirited, uneducated, bigoted new atheism. He calls Sam Harris's book uneducated. This by a man who is using more fonts than I've had hot dinners on one page. Cannot spell. The grammar is all just unbelievable. And
it was edited by Boutros, Dorcas, Gal, I don't know, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Kukla, Fran and Ali, Kalinda.
He edited this, and Stevie Wonder did the proofreading.
Right. What's the next chapter? Let's go on to the next chapter, man.
Belief is part of the. You can't talk about epistemology until you set out your opponent's ideas in a fair way and engage the best of their thinkers. Obviously, Jason really thinks he is one of those. You'll be better reading The Mystery of Reason by Paul Hafner, who discusses the topic in a brilliant way, in a brilliant and easy to read way, says Jason, who then prints a bit of that book in the smallest
possible. I can't read it.
This is the kind of writing we should be hearing from Sam Harris, exploring the topic so the layman can understand why he rejects religion and Christianity. But we are fed this political sermon of fear. They are irrational with crazy books. They blow each other up. This is what we get at the start of this book. How can you engage with writing that seeks to skip the real issues of philosophical thought? How can you have a fruitful dialogue with an agenda that seeks to misrepresent your opponent's scholarship? Second mention of the word scholarship. I have spent time to read his books and put in his quotes, but he does not quote the best of his opponents. It's bias scholarship and bias, not biased. It's biased, Jason. It's bias scholarship and propaganda writing coming from his pen. Then he put some chapter 2 notes about Sam Harris, but doesn't actually mention, but doesn't put the link in. Then he mentions nothing about. Then there's lots of links. Then chapter 3 is the Bible full of myth. And again, here we've got copyright of Bobby Robinson. So obviously, that's got to be right.
Bobby Robinson. Sorry,
Jason has got the template for this book, called loosely, from some other website, obviously run by Bobby Robinson, and has forgotten to take out the Bobby Robinson and put in the Jason Burns. He probably says, in this part, take out Bobby Robinson's name and put in your name. But he's forgotten that. So Bobby Robinson is could be onto a winner for the amount of sales this book's going to get. Chapter 3, is the Bible full of myth?
Yes.
Arris makes a grandiose statement that all religious books are myth and the same. First of all, are all religious books the same in terms of just being myth? Let's look at the Quran, which has changed its spelling again, and the Bible on Jesus dying on the cross. This is brilliant, this line. The Bible says Jesus died on a cross. The Quran says not. That's it.
That's it?
Well, he actually quotes the Quran and then quotes the Bible, quite a bit of the Bible, quite a bit of the Bible, quite a bit of the Bible. Then he says at the end of all those links, all this information, well, all 6 or 8 paragraphs of it, clearly shows the evidence of Jesus dying on the cross is more likely than what the Quran says. You have eyewitness material and you have enemies saying the same thing. Sam Harris' contention that all religious books are the same in content is incorrect. The Quran is clearly showing myth, the Bible demonstrating historical fact.
Wow, I got Jason Burns eats the poo-poo. One of the oldies is here. Wow. We gotta say hello to Shadow. Glad you're watching, Shadow Heathen. This was a great line. Jeff said, it's like the mumblings of a drunken priest, half drooling over the drugged body of a sated child.
And then there's another very small paragraph. I'm not even going to try reading that. Mentions about Jesus. And
Jeff says he believes that Jesus died on the cross. I do too, Jason. I think that Jesus did die on the cross. You're right. We agree. It's what happens afterwards that we have a problem with.
The Quran says not, you see. So anyway, Jason says Sam Harris will have none of it. This is fantastic. Fantastic writing. For him, all religious books are the same. What a line to put in. Notice he does not give any evidence. Well, that's because you haven't put his fucking book in here to show that he hasn't. He just makes an assertion. Yeah, like you are, Jason. They are the scrap heap of mythology. The term mythology is not an easy one to define from an academic point of view, but if we put that aside, let us see how he fleshes this out. He then puts another paragraph from Sam's book and then says, we can demonstrate more of the historical accuracy of the Bible. Please don't. Notice the quantity of manuscripts. We have over 5,000 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament. My dad's bigger than your dad. We also have 8,000. So he uses the word 5 and then reverts.
And then the number 8. Oh, my God.
We also have 8,000 Latin manuscripts. If you compare this with Latin, because that was obviously a good language they were using in those days. If you compare this with any ancient document, the Bible dwarfs any other book of antiquity. The quality of the manuscripts are exceptional. The Dead Sea Scrolls found in 1947 showed the Masoret text of the Old Testament had been well preserved, Dr. Boa notes.
Dr. Boa.
Dr. Boa.
Who the fuck is Dr. Boa?
He's probably a snake charmer or a reptile expert that Jason talks to the bar. But he just introduces Dr. Boa, or Dr. Boa notes, for no reason. We don't get to know who he is. We get a quote, I presume, from Dr. Boa that just says exactly what Jason has just said about the 1947 discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Anyway, Dr. Boa notices the time span of the manuscripts are exceptional. Oh, good old Dr. Boa. Snake, an 0800 constrictor. We have a gap of 100 years before we start to get copies of manuscripts, compared to 500 to 1,000 years with other ancient documents. The quality of the history scholars use to say that... What? I'll read this slowly. The quality of the history... the quality of the history scholars use to say that Moses could not have written the Pentateuch as writing did not exist then, Dr. Boa says. Dr. Boa sounds like he's pissed.
So, Dr. Boa said there was no writing before the Pentateuch?
Dr. Boa says the quality of these scholars. So Dr. Boa probably has a stammer. I think it's probably probably brought on by a nasty incident he had with a python when he was only 4. Perhaps he talks to snakes. He's like a snake whisperer. I don't know. But he says that the quality of the history scholars used to say that Moses could not have written the Pentateuch, as writing did not exist then. So there was no writing nowhere apart from China. No writing. So Moses could not have written the Pentateuch because there was no one had invented writing.
He wasn't
Dr.
a Chinaman.
Bowen, no. So then we have a bit that's highlighted in green that I have no idea where that comes from. And then we get introduced. Jay Smith has done some excellent tours of the British Museum. So now Dr. Bowen's out the window. He's gone. And there's someone
Who
called...
the fuck is Jay Smith? Isn't he the guy who did those movies?
Didn't he do the Fresh Prince? Oh, no, that was Will Smith. Anyway, so we don't get introduced to Jay Smith, but apparently he's been to the British Museum quite a few times. He's done some excellent tours showing countless times how the Bible has been found to be historically accurate. So anyone who wants to know anything about the Bible, just get in touch with Jay Smith, because he's done some walking around the British Museum, and he obviously that proves that the Bible is historically accurate, because Jay Smith looks at the following periods of history and finds artifacts in the museum to substantiate the Bible. So Jay walks around, says the Assyrians, period 9th to 7th century. So obviously Jay then walks around the museum and says, oh, look, there's an artifact in the museum. That means the Bible's true. All this time. If you are open-minded, I would advise you to read the document and see for yourself the historical accuracy of the Holy Book. The following
Read what document? Which document am I supposed to read here?
There isn't one.
Okay.
The following scholars have said this about the Bible. Dr. Fred Wright summarizes the importance of this find in regard to biblical historicity. And he says the Bible picture of this people fits in perfectly with what we know about the Hittite nation from the monuments. No preamble about the Hittites or the monuments, no explanation, just what Dr. Fred Wright says. All you got to do is go and speak to Dr. Fred Wright, or as Jason mentions, Robert Dick Wilson, who was the professor of Semitic philology at Princeton Theological Seminary during the 1920s.
Oh, that's cutting edge scholarship there, Jason. And who the fuck is Dr. Fred Wright? Dr. Boa, Jay Smith, Fred Wright, and Dick Williams.
Robert Dick Wilson, yeah.
Right, Dick Wilson.
He was professor of Semitic philology in the 1920s. You probably have a bit of a stretch to find him now. So then we go to... Oh, there's another mention. You could speak to Kenneth Kitchen, Professor Emeritus of Egyptology and Honorary Research Fellow at the School of Archaeology. Classic.
Did you just stop? Did you just say Kenneth Kitchen?
Yeah. In his part, Professor Emeritus, but in his spare time, he'll put a sink in for you or plumb in your washing machine. He's the Professor Emeritus of Egyptology and Honorary Research Fellow at the School of Archaeology, Classics and Oriental Studies, University of Liverpool, England. And
this means he's given a lot of money.
Yeah. As a quick quote from him, people did not write historical novels with authentic research, apparently he said. Then you could speak to Donald J. Wiseman, who, until his death in 2009, was Professor Emeritus of Assyriology. Well, after his death, he didn't do much, but obviously until his death in 2000. But what's the point of going to speak to him? He's fucking dead. So, but I like that. Until his death in 2009, he was a professor. After his death, he wasn't so busy. Now, the next problem with the Bible from Sam Harris is as follows. Big paragraph from Sam Harris's book. Jason says, Sam Harris rolls out, spelled R-O-L-E-S, the moral argument against the Bible. He points to texts like the above and tells us these are barbaric. First, I would ask, by what standard is the Bible barbaric or immoral? If he believes in evolution as he does, then how do you get right and wrong from such a position? Evolution does not have morals. No, because it's not really a person. Nature does not have morals. Now, if his foundation is evolution, he has no foundation to attack the Bible. Does that make sense?
Basic precept bullshit.
Right, yep. He invokes the golden rule to attack Christianity, but he can't give an account for it. Can't give an account for what? His attack or the golden rule? In the context of this text, What? I'm going to read that again. In the context of this text and Israel, these laws had a national flavour. Is it a cooking?
What?
In the context of this text and Israel, these laws had a national flavour. What laws? Does he mean the Golden Rule? Anyway, they are for a period in history to do a certain job in a historical context. To take the text out of its historical context fails to do justice to what is being said. Your God was connected to your land. Random line there. If you denied your God, it was not just a personal issue, but a national political one also. It would be like being in the Second World War and you decide to be a Nazi on English soil.
Well, they threw the king out for that. I'm sorry.
he sort of
Let's not go there. Let's not go.
It would be like being in the Second World War and you decide to be a Nazi on English soil. Okay, you would be committing treason. Atheists often fail to look at the historical context of religious texts.
Oh, context crap.
Jason says, I would just like to point out at this stage, the Bible is more historically accurate than the Quran, so it's not fair to say all religious books are the same. Second, the Bible has better manuscripts in quantity, quality, and historical accuracy than any ancient book, religious or secular. Sam Harris claimed the Bible is false.
Phalo Blue just said, this book deserves a golden shower.
And then we got virtually 2/3 of the rest of the page is just links. Bit from Bart Ehrman doesn't get mentioned, and the rest of the time just links anybody really. I think there's a recipe.
There's a lot of stuff on that page.
Well, there is a link to the Penguin Dictionary of Classical Mythology, which I think I read when I was 8. No, 1991 updated version. Right. There's another bit. The Pantheon.
I don't see anything from Dr. Boa.
There's a quote from Charles Spurgeon, whoever he is, John Newton, Richard Balkman, Tim Keller, and Vern Pothris. This sounds like something out of Star Wars. And then we get C. Chapter 4, the Wars of Religion. So we've now just gone on to wars. Sam Harris equates the vast majority of Muslim, Jewish, and Christian people who are tolerant and law-abiding with Islamic extremists. With Islamic, that doesn't make sense. It does not follow because the extremists who propagate violence are the same as every other religious persons.
Penguins can write better.
Down the road from me is a church with a coffee morning. Just a random line. Down the road from me is a church with a coffee morning. Senior citizens walk into the church for a chat, some cake and a cup of tea. This ritual is repeated around thousands of churches and other religious establishments in the UK. To equate these ladies in the same set as the Islamic extremists is laughable. Where does Sam Harris say that ladies having a bit of cake is the same as Bin Laden? But Sam will have none of it. He will push his demonizing political agenda no matter what. I can see it now. One 89-year-old lady in the kitchen making the tea says to the 75-year-old lady who's making the toast, "Have you got the bomb, Hilda?"
What does Hilda say?
Hilda says, "Oh yes, Martha, I put it in my handbag." So Jason's given us a hypothetical. We've got two old ladies. One's 89, one's 75 for some reason. One is making the tea, the other one is making toast, even though he's already said that they go there for cake. So we've got two old ladies in Britain at some senior citizens in the church on a coffee morning. And Hilda asks Martha if she's got the bomb. Martha says to Hilda, "Have you got the bomb, Hilda?" And Hilda says, "Oh yes, Martha, I've put it in my handbag."
I love
Martha smiles. Martha smiles. "We will have to visit Tesco. There is a sale on. You can get 2 tins of Campbell's soup for 1. Jolly good price. Then we can get the bus to Manchester and let the bomb off."
That's very funny, Jason.
So Hilda and Martha would take the bomb into Tesco first to get some cheap soup and then decide to go and do the bombing.
It's not clear whether they would have the soup. It's not clear that they would bring the bomb with them to Tesco.
You probably wouldn't metal detector or whatever it is they got in Tesco's anyway, with the scanner. I don't know. Anyway, so Martha and Hilda, terrorist bitches. The whole idea of demonizing every religious person as some crazy jihadist is anti-democratic and downright intolerant of anyone else's view. It reminds
That's exactly what he didn't do in End of Faith. He distinguished between moderates and extremists and why they're both a problem.
In the next paragraph, Jason switches from two old beers with a bomb in Manchester and a bag of soup. He says, it reminds me of the Russian Revolution when the communists cried, burn the books. They wanted to get rid of the Bible, so burnt as many as they could. To be a Christian was a crime. Churches closed down by the state. Over 2,000 priests killed. Christian intellectuals had to go into hiding. Obviously, Jason thinks of himself.
You could not put on a Christian funeral.
You could not put on a Christian funeral. Okay. I know Sam Harris is not advocating killing Christians, but the communist revolution had the same demonizing language as his writings. They said Christianity is backward and dangerous. They said Christianity had to be rooted out and people educated. Yeah, at least taught how to fucking write a book. It's the same demonizing agenda that Sam has. It is designed to alienate Christians and any other religious group that challenges the secular agenda as interpreted by New Atheism. Sam says, paragraph, no sooner does Sam whip up the fear factor than he goes on to say that all the political instability and wars in modern times are down to wars of religion. He makes a compressive list of major, is that different to impressive? I don't know. He makes a compressive list of major conflicts that have and are taking place in the world today. Religion is to blame for them all. Some of the biggest and most costly wars in terms of death and destruction have been by Western powers seeking oil and political influence around the world. The invasion of Iraq was not about religion, but was more to do with plundering the oil fields of that nation and making sure Saddam, spelled Saddam, making sure Saddam, S-D-H-A-M, did not hinder the flow of oil in that region. The same goes for Afghanistan. This country is strategic in allowing oil to flow to the West. The war in Libya, invaded by the West again. When was the war in Libya? Was for oil. I don't think we went to war in Libya. I think, Jason, we just, I think Gaddafi was just killed. We didn't invade Libya.
He was overthrown by them, not anybody else.
Yeah.
The Libyans themselves.
Yeah, the war in Syria that has seen millions displaced from their homes and a nation in utter ruins was a revolt against the tyrant and family dynasty of Assad that has grown into a proxy war between America and Russia for who has the power in the Middle East. Then Jason,
you talk about simplistic, you stupid motherfucker.
Then is one of Jason's most profound sentences in this literary masterpiece.
I love this.
That Gulf War was about oil.
that Gulf War. Ooh, that Gulf War. Ooh, that Gulf War. Ooh, was about oil. That Gulf War.
It could have been. That could have been Martha and Hilda. That could have been Martha and Hilda talking. You know, that there Gulf War was about oil. You know. You've got that suit.
Hold on, no, it's a Tesco. It's a Tesco. We gotta go to Tesco, man. Martha.
Yeah. Oh, priorities. Let's get our cheap. Why would you? What's the point in going shopping if you're going to blow yourself up afterwards? Anyway, I digress. So now we get onto chapter. No, we're still in chapter 4. He says it doesn't. I don't doubt for a minute that religion has been at the heart of many conflicts in the world today, but it's too simplistic to blame every war in modern times on religion and to say this is the reason for all our ARE international woes. I have listed 4 major wars in modern times, none of them being religious, more to do with toppling dictators and the grabbing of oil. Even if we grant that religion is causing many wars today, it is again a simplistic notion as it avoids the issue of nationalism and politics. In Northern Ireland, religion has been a tool used by political leaders to push for their brand of nationalism. The content, also Jason's now dabbling, we've gone away from the Gulf Wars, now Jason's now telling us what the sectarian problems in Ireland are all about. The content of Protestant theology and Catholic theology plays little role in the conflict. The religious names are used as symbols of nationalistic political tribes. History is used as a powerful tool to keep stoking the fire of political conflict. In Northern Ireland, the complex interchange of religion history and politics cannot be just laid at the door of religion. I'm not saying Sam Harris does not have a point. He does. Not have a point, he does. What to do with the Israel? He then goes from Northern Ireland. After 2 sentences, Northern Ireland's done with. Now we get on to Israel-Palestine. What to do with the Israel v. Palestine conflict is a puzzle we all wrestle with. Also, he has a point. If the jihadists get a nuclear bomb, we are in trouble. Not about the jihadists. Fucking Hilda and Mabel have got one. Oh, but
Martha and Hilda.
Martha and Hilda. It is fair, F-A-R-E, to spread fear. It is fair. But is it fair to spread fear by blaming every religion and every religious person? Does it really solve anything? Sam seems to want to banish religion from the public sphere. But to do so solves nothing. You will still have your Islamic extremists. Not only that, you will hinder the freedom of religion and religious conscience. The heart of Western democracy has been to protect these religious rights. If they was taken away, but the West could never lay claim to be democratic anymore. If they was taken away. Another profound statement. And then, for some strange reason, we go on to Jesus in the next sentence. Jesus never taught his disciples to engage in a war as a lifestyle. He taught a love of life, a life of love, rather, or whatever. You have heard it, that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemy. Oh, so he's just basically saying this is what Jesus said. No one cares. And then he says, hear Jesus. Oh, he spelled it H-E-A-R. Hear Jesus.
Hear Jesus is
hear Jesus. There's a hear Jesus, there's a see Jesus, and there's think Jesus. Oh, here Jesus is telling his disciples that far from being violent, his followers should love even to those who are unkind to them. What? Can this really be said to invoke a jihadist mentality? What's Jesus got to do with jihad? Can you really think a person following this teaching would drop a nuclear bomb on innocent people? I don't think so.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep right there. Thanks, Jason. Look at this shit green. Can you read it? I cannot read it.
No, it's about a Jew going on a trip from Jerusalem to Jericho being attacked by bandits. I think it might be it's a bit from the Bible. So he goes on about Jesus teaching shows a consideration for others. Then basically he's bigging Jesus up. He's saying that you know, do this, do that. If we take Sam's paradigm that ideas lead to action, then these ideas of Jesus will clearly lead to respecting one's neighbor. Jesus fleshed out his teaching of Good Samaritan. So we get told about the Good Samaritan, and Jason says, not only does Jesus teach love, but the Bible is full of such teaching. The Apostle Paul said, paragraph by Paul, then basically we should.
Wow, that font is really small.
I know, it's just like nothing, hardly anything. Then he goes on about when Jesus died on the cross, he showed real love is sacrificial, blah, blah, blah. Jesus is lovely. Take my friend. Oh, for some strange reason, he mentioned love works in action. Just one sentence, another profound sentence. It is not just emotional. Another sentence. Not the starting, but the blossoming of hospitals in the West was from Christians. The ending of slavery was from Wilberforce and key Christians who joined him.
Go fuck yourself, Jason, with that lie.
Christians and other religions are involved in enormous charity works around the world today. Let us also not forget the many millions of little acts of kindness done by religious people we never hear of. Take my friend Beatrice in her 80s. Next door to her live a Muslim family. They have cooked her meals and sent them often to her. A few weeks ago on Sunday, I saw Sikhs giving out food and blankets to the homeless in Manchester. They wouldn't give them blankets in the summer. They probably would. They want to be on the news for the good they have done, but if Sam gets his way, they'll be demonized. Yeah, fuck them Sikhs.
I should note that there are a couple people who want a link.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that afterwards. Who's asking for in then?
Thalo was asking for one. I don't know if she's still here. She wants to know how many more chapters are in this fucking book.
There's that's the end of chapter 4. There are 16 chapters, but the ones at the end, Jason gets a bit. There's virtually like one paragraph per chapter, so we're not far off. Loads more links. Islamic extremism. I respect the Muslim scholar Tariq Ramadan. His life of Muhammad is a delight to read. His understanding of Western philosophy is profound. In one of his books called What I Believe, he makes the case that Islam should be seen as Western.
Can you respect that, Jason? You think that's true?
Then there's another paragraph from Sam's book, and then he says, I find the above statement sweeps away the thinkers like Tariq. Sam doesn't recognize the contribution Islam has made to science and philosophy. He does not engage with scholars such as Tariq in a scholarly way. Scholarly way. If he does, it's high-profile debates and posturing polemics, not academic study of his opponent's works. I find myself, Tariq is on a missionary cause to convert the West to Islam. Oh, God. I would agree with Sam. The Quran is
I find myself, Tariq. Is that okay? I see now. Go on. This is my head is starting to hurt, man.
Yeah, you tell me about it. Then the last paragraph, he calls jihadist extreme in following the Quran. Is that the definition of extremism of the Islamic type? I think it would be better to say that a small group of Muslims angry at the Western hypocrisy of invading Muslim lads, not lands. So obviously that's why Muslims are bombing people, because the West have invaded some Muslim lads. So they just stood around minding their own business, probably 10, 11 years old, and the West invaded them. So they decided by reading the Quran that holy war is commanded and desirable. Oh, what a rubbish. They've more lips.
Slightly homoerotic there, invading Muslim lads.
Yeah.
There's nothing but quotes on this page, it looks like.
Pretty much quotes. To make the statement all Muslims hate the West is to judge all Muslims as the same. Something I don't think he can do. Well, he probably did. There are many types of Muslims, for example, says Jason. And then he describes them, and then as he describes them, the font gets smaller and smaller. And then Jason says, now I agree with Sam at this point. I do think the Quran is Islamic teaching as a clear doctrine of violence that is not helpful for today's modern world. And then he says, but you've got to take the Quran in context. Puts a bit of it, and then it's all just links. And then Jason mentions the hadiths that show us a number of things. Fighting for Allah is a good thing. Another profound sentence from Jason. You are rewarded for doing so. One of the best things to do is to fight for Allah. He talks about context, doesn't provide any. These sayings are bound to create a war-like community who love to fight. Oh, you mean a war-like? A war-like community. You can bypass the normal rituals of Islam and get to paradise much easier by being a fighter. Being as fair as possible, looking at the context of the material, seeing them in the historical flow, we get a religion based on violence. In short, I would agree with Sam Harris that what the Quran teaches about jihad, but the way he gets to this without getting the Quran verses in context and without looking at the Islamic traditions is sloppy, to say the least, says Jason. You've written one of the sloppiest things I've ever read in my entire life. The Quran is being shielded by criticism by Western intellectuals because of its fear of returning to a colonialist past that dominated Muslim lands in the 19th century. Jason's got it all worked out. I don't know why Trump just doesn't get Jason in to sort the problems of the world out. Can you imagine Jason Burns sat at a desk with Netanyahu and, getting Jason Burns broke
all
his
our
teeth in the
troubles
Middle
will
East.
be over right quick.
Yep. Then he's put a couple of links in by R.J. Rushdoony. I think that's the end of chapter. Yeah, that's it. And then chapter 5, obviously that's finished, but there are just loads of links. And chapter 6, we go on to spirituality for the masses. And Jason says, when I was at theological seminary, one of the books that made the biggest impression on me was Thomas Kempis' Imitations of Christ. Its penetrating insight into human nature, its deep spirituality won my heart. Oh, not well. Your heart's been won by Boutros Ghanaian person now. He emphasized the importance of humility as opposed to the proud scholastics of his day who boasted about their, so good they named it twice, their intellectual ability, but failed to understand the deeper teachings of Christ. Here are some quotes from his book. Great. And Jason says, lots of quotes. Basically, this is just quotes from his book. And for some strange reason, there's the quotes from his book. And then Jason goes back on to Sam Harris for no real reason. Oh, well. Okay, Sam, now we have it. What is the justification? His justification is the idea we should be open-ended about experience. This is no intellectual foundation for his mystical experiences. Oh, Sam mentions his mystical experiences when he was stoned in India, probably. And Jason talks about that and then just criticizes Sam Harris. He's just preaching scientism. Contrast this comment with the deep and profound spirituality of Kempis. Oh, so he's setting Kempis against, look, Kempis is great and Sam Harris isn't as good as Jason. So he's just comparing them in that chapter, the two of them. And there's a lot more links, and then the hideous green highlighting. We're on to chapter 7 already. Faith and the resurrection of Jesus. For no real reason, Jason just goes to jihad to Jesus and talking about the resurrection. So this is basically just Jason telling us, look, the Bible says this Christian scholar says that Jesus was clearly resurrected as it says in the Bible. And he quotes various people. This is all just copy and pasted from various people. A couple of bits from Sam Harris, nothing from Jason. This whole page is pretty much nothing from Jason. Nicole. Oh, he mentions Nicole Kidman. I might read that bit. There we are. Okay. We'll give it a bit of context about what is faith then? Is it something other than belief? The Hebrew term emuna is alternative translated as to have faith, to believe or to trust. So he talks about faith. Defines the faith as assurance of things hoped for, convictions of things not seen. And then Jason says things hoped for, something one has no evidence for. So Jason says, let's see how faith works. Let's see how this works. Jason says, I feel a certain, rather thrilling conviction that Nicole Kidman is I'll start again. Let's see how this works. I feel a certain, rather thrilling conviction that Nicole Kidman is in love with me. As we have never met, my feeling is my only evidence of her infatuation. I reason thus. My feelings suggest that Nicole and I must have a special, even metaphysical connection.
He could have picked anybody. Sorry, yeah. He could have picked anybody, and he picked her.
Yeah.
I'm so
no
sorry.
one in Manchester just picks Nicole Kidman. Otherwise,
what about Dorcas Kakura Kobana?
I was about to say, yeah. What about her?
Yeah,
well, that's real. That's real. I see.
Whenever Jason gets to Ghana, the first thing she's going to say, "Well, fuck off." What, Nicole Kidman, eh? Well, go and get Nicole then. Go in and get engaged to Nicole. Give her your goats.
She's about 2 foot taller than him.
Well, yeah. Jason's 4'7" with arms in the air. He is 4'11". I'm not joking.
Oh, really? No, he's not.
He is.
That's a hobbit.
He is 5'1" or 5'2" at best.
Yeah, that's when he's got his heels on.
That's kind of, that's like registered disabled, isn't it? I think.
So anyway, back to Nicole.
Sorry, keep going.
I reason thus. My feelings suggest that Nicole and I must have a special, even metaphysical connection. Otherwise, how could I have this feeling in the first place? I decided to set up camp outside her house.
He would do this, though. But I think he would do that, though.
So in Jason's mind, he is now camping in a tent just outside Nicole Kidman's house.
He's definitely camping.
So he can make the introductions. Clearly, this sort of faith is a trick. No, Jason, it's called stalking. The new atheists have also not broke free from making a Jesus in their own image. So then he just goes on to, I don't know. He just quotes something. He's completely ignored Nicole Kidman, and then he swaps fonts after the word "the," and he's pasted something about Richard Dawkins, and then Christopher Hitchens, and then Sam Harris, and yeah, none of it makes any sense.
That's awful.
Then he goes about faith being an imposter. This can be readily seen in the way that all the extraordinary phenomena of. So Nicole's gone now.
Where's that gone?
Doesn't even come out to say hello. Nothing. Not a by your leave. Not a how.
I want Nicole. I want more Nicole. What's wrong with you, Jason? You got me all hot and bothered there. Now you turn it away. Now you're going on to never mind.
Nicole Kidman's husband is saying, and not only that, isn't she Australian?
Yeah.
So presumably Jason has gone to Australia with a backpack and his tent, and he set up camp outside Nicole's house. Can you imagine? Hi, Nicole, there's some strange guy outside in a tent.
I'd be confused for like some little.
Call the police. Call the police, please.
I think it must be a hobbit or something. His ever so short. Anyway, he's in a tent. He's waving. No, I don't know.
This sounds like a Peter Jackson movie.
Exactly, yeah. Perhaps he's an extra from Lord of the Rings. Anyway, Faith is an imposter, says Jason. And then he mentions, imagine if carbon dating of the Shroud of Turin had shown it to be as old as Easter Sunday, AD 29. Because obviously they called it Easter Sunday in AD 29.
I do think that Nicole Kidman might be quite flattered, though. She's in this chapter. And it's so rich. There's so much going on in this chapter. She's probably loving it. There's the Turin. There's Christ knows what going on. She's loving it.
Obviously, in Jason's mind, they actually mentioned the words Easter. Oh, it's Easter Sunday next week in the year AD 29. Is there? Save me an egg. That's what Jesus said on the cross. Save me an egg. I'll be back Sunday.
Smoke me a kipper.
Is there? Yeah, I can say, that's what he said to his mum. Jesus, and he said, "Mum, come closer." She said, "What is it, son?" He said, "I can see our house from here." Is there any doubt that this revelation would have occasioned a spectacle of awe, exaltation, and zealous remission of the sins? Jason hasn't written that.
He's not written that. That's copied. This whole page that you've got on the screen here is
the previous
not written. It's copied and pasted from numerous things. Well, that bit is. That's bullshit there.
So the whole of chapter 7, none of that's written by Jason. None of that's written by Jason, apart from Nicole Kidman. None of that's written by Jason.
Just his little Castlemaine 4X little fantasy.
So then we're on to chapter 8, the historical Jesus and the resurrection. And
God,
Jason,
how many chapters are there?
So Jason, well, there's a few more, but they get less. They get smaller and smaller. So anyway, chapter 8. Blue loves this one. The historical Jesus and the resurrection. Jason's first line is, the Gospels can be traced back to show they are early historical source material. And Jason gives us a timeline in 180 AD to 150, 130, 120, 100, 95. So he just gives us all a load of bollocks.
Brilliant. Life of Brian. Yeah.
And then Jason says, Jesus, who, as it turns out, was born of a virgin. As it
turns out?
As it turns out.
They
weren't sure at the time.
Wait. It's not as it turns out because it's in the Bible. We all know that.
It's not
What's he talking about?
Spoilers. Anyone that hasn't read the Bible, spoiler alert. Jesus,
that is really weird.
As it turns out, was born of a virgin, cheated death, and rose bodily into the heavens, can now be eaten in the form of a cracker.
But he didn't cheat death, did he? He knew he was going to die.
Well, this is gold. So I'll start again. Jesus Christ, who, as it turns out, was born of a virgin, cheated death, and rose bodily into the heavens, can now be eaten in the form of a cracker. A few Latin words spoken over your favourite Burgundy, and you can drink his blood as well.
Oh, I see.
Is there any doubt that a lone subscriber to these beliefs would be considered mad? Rather, is there any doubt that he would be mad? The danger of religious faith is that it allows otherwise normal human beings to reap the fruits of madness and consider them holy. Oh, I'm not going to read the rest.
It's bullshit.
And then Jason mentions in small print here, the next important thing to note, the Gospels are accurate historical documents. So the bits that Jason written, he's now forgotten to change into a different font. So he's left his line, the next important thing to note, the Gospels are accurate historical documents. And he mentions the historical accuracy of John's Gospel. And he goes through all this Bible stuff.
Oh, God, this is painful.
About the boy Jesus in the temple, the inscription about Pontius Pilate, the wine press, stone wall terraces, 3 towers, a boat, farmers.
He's not written this. This is
this is pasted. He mentions, then he goes about the Gnostic Gospels and tells us where the word Gnostic comes from. Gnostic is someone who knows or is a knower. I suppose a Jason.
He's got Jason the Argonauts in there as well. He's got.
Yeah. And then he says, profound, finally, the Gospels are eyewitness accounts. Okay. And then he mentions Jesus and the eyewitnesses. And then he says, we believe most of what we believe about the world because others have told us to. Reliance upon the authority of experts and upon the testimony of ordinary people is the stuff of which worldviews are made. In fact, the more educated we become, the more our beliefs come to us as second-hand, at second-hand. A
What?
person who believes only these propositions for which he can provide full sensory or theoretical justification will know almost nothing about the world. That is, if he is not swiftly killed by his own ignorance. How do you know that falling from a
What?
great height is hazardous to your health?
Where's this on here? I can't. Mark, put your cursor on the page because I can't.
Right here.
Where have you just read that?
on the far left. First
Christ.
paragraph. He says, unless you have 7:4, the end of faith, witness someone dying this way, you have adopted disbelief on the authority of others. Then he just goes on about the explanatory about the Gospels, and basically says that's the end of the chapter.
It's brilliant.
Oh no, he has explanatory scope. He does. We note my position as main. So he's explaining why he believes that the.
He hasn't written that. He's not written that.
I gave solid evidence for the Gospels being early historical source material. Then I built a good case for those Gospels being historically reliable documents. Basically, Jason is saying we should just believe what it says in the Bible because it says so in the Bible.
Do you think there's a
I
copy
submit
of
to you
this?
Christianity as evidence for its main claim that Jesus rose from the dead. On this basis, I would invite you to trust in the Lord Jesus as your Saviour.
Oh, well, that's fine. Do you think there's a copy of this in the British Library? There has to be, doesn't there?
This
Don't
is
they
a
have?
Kindle edition.
But do they have to
It's
take
a Kindle edition.
But do they take Kindle editions, or they have to take everything that's published, don't they?
No, only books, I think.
Oh, Christ! It's just as well then.
Then this whole next page, look, just links.
Whoa,
You can
that's
hardly read.
beautiful. That's like art.
And there's 4 different colours.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
boring.
great. Underscores and everything. Yeah.
Yep, there's another one. No, that's not all then he goes on to,
I'm sorry. I'm so.
this is just basically copied and pasted out the back of someone's book.
See the thing there, it says hunts at the top. It's quite right with. It's almost right with the word hunts at the top.
Yeah,
It's close.
very true. So this is the chapter 9, the in hyphen Inquisition
and which
in hyphen Inquisition and which hunts.
Hunts.
One of the ways modern atheists like Sam Harris try to debunk Christianity is play the Old Testament card. Sam Harris is fond of bringing up the issue that the Inquisition and the witch hunts are because of the Bible.
Where's the full stop?
But
Christ.
Well, there isn't. It just goes straight to capital A. But in his attack on Christianity, he fails to say how the New Testament advocates war and killing. It does not. If you take the Bible as a whole and do not cherry, it is a false accusation. The Bible advocates these medieval practices.
Hang on, stop.
Read that. You read it.
Do not cherry.
Do it again, please.
What the hell is do not cherry?
He says, because of the Bible, full stop. But in his attack on Christianity, he fails to say how the New Testament advocates war and killing. It does not. This is the line. Great. If you take the Bible as a whole and do not cherry, it is a false accusation. The Bible advocates. I think he's left the word out, cherry pick.
Oh, cherry pick. I thought it was some kind of northern craziness.
He sounds like someone from down. If you take the Bible as an whole and do not cherry it, it's a false accusation. The Bible
that's too far south for him, though.
Oh, no.
This is fucking shit. Honest to God.
Really? You think so? The Inquisition, where more complex than Sam.
How can you read that font? It's so small.
No, this next bit. The Inquisition's where, not where. The Inquisition's where more complex than Sam wants to admit. Inquisitors were individuals who travelled around Europe with minimal centralised control. Their power was only dependent on political control. Culture was also a determining factor in how the Inquisitions were conducted. Oh my God. You have to factor.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. They were evil bastards, medieval bastards back then. That's how the culture. Never mind.
Torture was a means of inducing repentance. There you go. With a profound statement from Jason there. So
but this is fucking torture right here now. So we must be like fucking golden at the minute.
Sam Harris can look down at the witch hunts, but think of the injustices of the 20th century threw up. I'll read that again. There's no punctuation in this sentence. It just says, Sam Harris can look down at the witch hunts, but think of the injustices the 20th century threw up. We had 2 world wars. Profound statement there. Just one sentence. We had 2 world wars. We had communist totalitarianism that killed millions. Man's inhumanity to man in the 20th century was far worse than what the medieval church did. We need to be reminded of this, as it is so easy to look down on a past age without realizing the hypocrisy of our, A-R-E, modern times. To repeat a most important point, we must realize that the social and political culture of the times was much different from ours today. State and church was much closer, and any deviant view from the state was seen as treason. If one looks at the Inquisition and witch hunts from this historical context, one gets a better, more balanced perspective. Jesus saying we're all going to go in hell and burn forever in a horrible place. Don't worry about that. It's fine. So then chapter 11, the virgin birth. For some no reason, we've had chapter 10, which is anti-Semitism. All Jason says is, this is the whole chapter. Jason writes, Sam Harris pulls no punches. He is determined to politicize everything. He now accused in his book, The Church in History has been guilty of anti-Semitism. That's it. Unless this is by Jason as well, but he's changed the font.
Wow. That's the
whole of chapter 10. So then we get chapter 11. Jason moves from anti-Semitism. So chapter 9 was about the Inquisitions and witch hunts. Chapter 10 is about anti-Semitism, because that follows. And
That
chapter
was-
11 is...
So anti-Semitism was like about a few. I mean, that's not
But they
even.
don't follow. The chapters don't even follow in some chronological, just... No, he just chucks it in there. And then
This is
chapter 11
fucking
is
mad.
titled the virgin birth. And Jason's profound sentence here is, Sam... I can't really laugh saying it. Sam Harris now has a stab at the virgin birth, he notes.
such a poor choice of words. I can't even. A stab at the Jason.
So Sam Harris has a stab at the virgin birth. And the virgin's got a capital V. So I don't know whether that's the Richard Branson company or whether it's... I don't know. Anyway. So then Jason says, here Sam, as in H-E-A-R, he spells that. Here
What's the
Sam.
little, no, hang on. Sorry, Mark. What's the little words underneath?
Oh, that's a quote from Sam Harris's book about the virgin birth. But he's put it in such a small font, it's not worth reading.
It's in black and green. Christ.
Yeah, well, and then he says, here Sam fails to realise the nature of historiography, both ancient and
Is that a
modern.
word?
All historical writing is selective. That one writer misses some vital point is seen in all historical writing. Each historian selects the facts in order to highlight the points they want to make from the biography. Because Sam lacks understanding on historical method, he makes a mistake in using argument from silence. Philo, the Jewish philosopher, does not mention in his visit to Jerusalem the personage of Gamaliel, the great Jewish religious leader. Are we then to conclude? It sounds like someone out of Lord of the Ring. Gamaliel the
Yeah.
elf does not exist. And he goes on about Sam's exposition of Romans is painful to see. What does he mean? The actual Romans or Italians, or does he mean the book? And then he goes on about, so there we have it. The virgin birth is to blame for our, A-R-E, attitude on sex. So this bit by Jason, but in a completely different font. Did not Sam Harris read the Song of Solomon? He loves to politicize everything. Anything that comes across as supernatural is evil by definition and has some deviant political agenda. Could it be he is just too cynical?
Hang on, the Song of Solomon isn't supernatural. What's he talking about?
Could it not be in order to make a valid point he pushed his interpretation to fair F-A-R-E, and then loses all credibility? I think you meant too far there. Yeah. Could it not be that he is in the matrix of history when 9/11 had just taken place? So to push back against, I've got the breath for that sentence. I'll take a
No,
deep,
keep going.
hang on, deep breath, really. Could it not be that he is in the matrix of his history when 9/11 had just taken place? So to push back against religious fundamentalism, he will throw the mud on everything he can find with the hope some mud sticks?
What the fuck?
As he does this, he is not... I've gone all dizzy. Hang on. As he does this, he is not doing... I think I've just hyperventilated. I have a beer. Hang on. As he does this, he is not doing history or biblical exegesis. He has a political agenda! Exclamation mark. And then he mentions on the Hebrew, the word virgin, one writer has noted for some strange reason. Then chapter 11 notes, he just says, End of Faith by Sam Harris. And then there's a picture of someone called Greg Herrick,
Brilliant.
who's got like a square head and a weird moustache.
Frankenstein.
Then we're on to chapter 12, the church and state, and Jason's one line says, Sam Harris thinks the church is having too much influence in American politics.
Too much.
1 0 and 2.
Mm.
He writes, and then Sam Harris is advocating a Marxist view of the state rather than what the early fathers of America wanted. So now
That's
Jason's
complete bullshit, by the way.
American history is going to upset Blue. The founding fathers wanted the state not to control religion. It was not against religion having an influence upon the state. The other main issue is, no, that's what separation of church and state means, Jason, you retard. The other main issue is since the Enlightenment, there has grown up a view that somehow the state should be neutral in terms of religion. Oh, my God. And he goes on about modern democracies seek to define the good in the will of the people and consolidate power in the institutions of the nations. Bullshit, Jason. Doesn't make any sense. That's chapter 12 notes. So we're nearly there. There's chapter 3. No, that's the notes. That's all the notes. Lots of stuff by Rush Dooney and Robert Shaw. He was in Jaws.
Robert Shaw? Jesus Christ. He's going back to Quint. Christ, he must be desperate.
Going to need a bigger book.
No!
He's going to need a book full stop.
Oh dear. That's so that the whole page is just notes, and the whole of the next page is all just notes. And the whole of the next page is all
look
just
at that. That is awful. Oh, hang on.
I'll never put on a life preserver again.
Well, I don't know. That could be Jason saying stuff, this section in the first place.
Crime and Punishment. What's that?
Copyright of Jason Burns. Crime and Punishment. Sam Harris wants narcotic drugs to be legalized.
Oh, good grief.
Another profound statement from Jason. He thinks Christianity is holding back progress in this area and many aspects of the criminal justice system. Well, no wonder, because Sam Harris spent the formative years of his life in India off his fucking face. So the Bible teaches that government's role is to restrain evil.
The Bible teaches that government's role is to...
The law is vital for this task. Without it, we would... Have we got any anti-evil police? Is there an anti-evil squad in the UK? There's the Met.
The people who fuck with Van Helten are the anti-evil squad.
Well, yes, Governor, I'd like to be transferred from Vice Squad. I wouldn't mind going on the anti-evil squad of the Metropolitan Police Force. As a dog handler. Halt. Stop, police. I'm from the anti-evil squad. Stop, or I'll read a Bible passage.
Which evil, though? It could be any evil. Could be all sorts. You
want me to put my hands above my head, officer? No, just put your hands together and pray. Let's pray together. If you agree to relinquish evil, I'll let you go. Anyway, I digress. The state has the right and the duty to exact the required punishment on those who will not obey the law. Blah, blah, blah. Christians have a right and duty to argue this case is the way this stuff. Yeah, Jason. Sam Harris thinks these are outmoded concepts. Yeah. The criminal justice system is not about our pleasure. I didn't think it was in the first place.
Well, unless you want to be chained up and kind of, locked up, that's fine.
Well, that's your thing. That's the sort of thing you'd ask for. We're going to give you a suspended sentence, Miss Blue. Well, actually, no, I'd rather be tied up and slapped about for a bit.
Just lock me up in the cell. That's fine.
Yeah, just. I want my bottom spanked for an hour. That's punishment. Anyway, Jason.
I have to pay for that usually.
Do you? You should go to Ghana. If you're right then.
Yeah, Dorcas Kakua Cobana will sort you out.
Yeah, she's from the Jesus Girl Ministry. It's probably a band. I'm sure they were on Britain's Got Talent. And now, Jesus Girl Ministry. So chapter 14 now goes on to relativism and Richard Rorty.
Who's Richard Rorty?
Well, we don't get any introduction. He's just mentioned, and that's it. Sam Harris goes on the attack of relativism. He points out the idea is self-contradictory, which did agree with.
Hang on, I'm looking at Richard
Which did
Rorty.
agree with. Oh, my God. As he touches on this point, he gives a critique of the philosopher Richard Rorty, always a philosopher, who advocates a pragmatic approach to morality. I agree with some of Sam's points, but he fails to give any justification for some aspects of his moral foundation.
He's been dead for 11 years.
Oh, well, that's why you can't get in touch with him then. Most of the people Jason says we should speak to are dead. So then that's chapter 14 over and done with. 2 paragraphs done. Chapter 15,
Brilliant.
the transcendental argument. Jason says the nature of logic is on off the weakest issues in Sam Harris thinking. I'll read that slowly. The nature of logic is on off the weakest issues in Sam Harris thinking. First, he assumes the validity of logic without giving us any argument for that validity. Next, he almost makes logic a subjective process, mixing it with intuition. If this was the case, it is hard to see how he can argue for any objective standard in any subject, he writes. He writes. Then there's a paragraph. Jason goes on about, obviously he's wrong. Christian musician gives a satisfactory explanation for the basic laws of logic and the basis of rationality. So a bit of precept there. Therefore, only God can account for the logical absolutes. The only
Can I ask you guys for something? Can someone share the link with Auntie? I'm having trouble.
All right. Yeah. Can you do that, Blue?
Not me, because I'm on an iPad.
All right. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to get the Hangout. No, that's the wrong one. Get the Hangout link. And then go to... Auntie. What, the link to watch it or the link to join? Oh, I've sent them the link to join. Anyway.
Can you hear me?
Who's that? I can hear
channel.
Hello, Archive. How are you?
All right. You.
That's the archive channel.
Excellent. We're near the end.
Oh, it's archive.
We're at chapter 15 out of 16. So Jason mentions about logic and then says that the only mind that could be an absolute is the mind of God. And then that's the end of chapter 15. And we go straight to the last chapter. Oh, no. Sorry, I lied. There's 17 chapters. Chapter 16, the gospel and atheism. For Sam Harris, the gospel is mankind must be saved by the evils of religion. I'll read that again slowly for people that have gone mad by now.
Yeah, go again.
For Sam Harris, the gospel is mankind must be saved by the evils of religion.
This is painful.
For the Bible, the gospel is in Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul said. And there's something Apostle Paul said. Paul is not ashamed as he sees the good news of Jesus can change people's lives. Paul sees the answer.
Oh, the answer. Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Not in an ideology. I think that's a mythical beast.
It's like a centaur.
Yeah. This bottom half's a goat, top half's a snake.
No, chimera.
Boa. Not in an ideology or in an abstraction, but in a person. For Paul, the person of Jesus Christ is the answer.
Answer again. Oh, shit.
To the human need.
Yeah.
So 2 mentions of answer there. Paul's message was only by having faith in Jesus Christ can you be right with God. It is interesting to note, as we have looked at Sam Harris' book, he accuses Christians of all sorts of things, but never picks up on the agenda of Christians. I'm going to take a breath again. Hang on a second.
Yeah, breathe. For Christ's sake.
It is interesting to note, as we have looked at Sam Harris' book, he accuses Christians of all sorts of things, but never picks up on the agenda of Christianity, and that is to provide us with a way of being right with God.
Brilliant.
Oh. Sam, how do I need a drink? So I'm drinking a pint of creme de menthe. Sam Harris' attack on the faith has been political in his book. Deep breath again. Sam Harris' attack on the faith is political in his book. In reality, the gospel is about the salvation of the soul, dealing WIOTH with the question, how can a person be right with God?
Fab.
At the heart of, he must have been pissed, and he must have been, it's getting worse. It's towards the end of the book. At the heart of this gospel is the analysis of the human condition. I can barely speak. The Bible teaches the human heart needs to change. Sam Harris says the evil is religion. The Bible says the evil is in the heart of the human race. Sam says we need to get rid of religion. The Bible says the human heart needs to change. Mankind has enough knowledge of God. There's no like full stop, next word starts straight away, no space. Mankind has enough knowledge of God. The human race does not want to follow this knowledge but suppress it.
Brilliant.
Then creation speaks of God. Oh, this is Jason's bit about evolution. DNA has over 3 billion bits of information.
Bits.
Yep. I can tell he's a scientist. Come on.
Yeah.
Absolute. This is really thorough. This has got. I'm impressed.
What's DNA, Mr. Burns? DNA has information. That's all you need to know. This led me to conclude there was a mind. I forgot the Manchester accent. There was a mind behind the universe.
You should have got Cliff to narrate it.
He became a deist. That's it. But it shows the power of the argument that nature reveals a divine mind behind its creation. The rejection of this evidence for God means that humanity becomes corrupt and decadent in its morality. Then Jason says, mankind will never prosper, for the wrath of God is on his projects, for God cannot endure immorality. He must judge. It means, that's it. It's just the 3 words.
He must judge. He must judge.
Must love God. Must pray. It means modernity is doomed to failure. It can never prosper. It can never proper.
Oh, it can never proper.
It can never proper.
Bless.
It can never proper. Warning, Will Robinson. It can never proper. Its projects of democracy will crumble under the wrath. Each person can't blame any other. That's all you need to know. It's just a sentence. Each person can't blame any other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We all have to deal with God on an individual basis. Can't do it in groups. Well, why do you go to church then? We each have to admit our own guilt before God. We must stop blaming our culture, politicians, or communities. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. God has provided a way of no space. God has provided a way of salvation. It is called justification, capital J, by faith.
Yeah.
What this means, Jesus Christ took the punishment for each one of us. I'll read that again. What this means, Jesus Christ took the punishment for each one of us.
He's a masochist, that old Jesus.
He died in our place. He died in our place. I wasn't even there. How could he die in my place? I wasn't there. He died in our place so we might be forgiven. If we confess our sin and ask God to forgive us on account of what Jesus has done, we shall be saved.
Hang on. Sorry. If
This
we
is basic
confess...
street preaching. You just wrote a street preaching lecture down.
Yep, that's it. And then there's nothing else. Then a quote from David Jeremiah, Max Lucado. I've got one of his albums, I think. And John Calvin. No, Max Lucado is the guy that signed for Chelsea in 2009.
That's a great album too.
Max Lucado's greatest hits. Then we've got chapter 17, the last chapter. So Jason goes from the gospel and atheism to jihad in Manchester. For no reason, he goes straight to jihad in Manchester. And this is
it a club? It's a club, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I probably went there in 1994. That's when I first took ecstasy. Oh yeah, jihad in Manchester, great club, jihad, banging. Jihad in Manchester, fucking banging night, mate. Oh, great.
Yeah, we did ecstasy with Sam Harris at that club, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they had 2 rooms, drum and bass at the top, and then it was jihad. That's why it was banging, because it's jihad. Great. Anyway,
Chop
met
your
my wife
head off.
there in 1996. I met my wife. Yeah. Well, that was the basement room.
You'd lose your head.
You got off your head, or your head was off you. Your head in jihad. Anyway, mad father, great. Manchester,
in Manchester.
Jihad. In Manchester. Jason says, this is gold. Serious now. As I finish these meditations on the thoughts of Sam Harris, the attack on Manchester and the killing children at pop concert took place.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
I'll read that again slowly.
Awful. Yeah.
As I finish these meditations on the thoughts of Sam Harris, the attack on Manchester and the killing children at a pop concert took place a week ago. It's like the news. Also, another bloody attack at London Bridge. It makes it sound like, another bloody attack.
Bloody one.
Also, another bloody attack at London Bridge has just happened. Sam Harris' book, End of Faith, was written in a time of jihadist in America, and I finished this book with the same experience.
What? He blew up as well. He blew himself up after he read it.
That's how it reads, isn't it? Sam Harris' book, End of Faith, was written in a time of jihadist in America, and I finished the book with the same experience.
With an explosion.
The total devastation of Islamic extremism that came to Manchester was brought home to me when I walked down to St. Anne's Square to see the mountains of flowers. The public. I'll read that again. The total
Flowers.
Compose myself. No, calm down. The total devastation of Islamic extremism that came to Manchester was brought home to me when I walked down to St. Anne's Square to see the mountains of flowers the public had left for the victims. Saint spelled S-N-T, no capital S. I will never forget that day. Sam Harris wrote his book, Attacking Religion. Well, not on the same day. It was a defense of reason against irrationalism as he thought. Oh, I know, just random sentences. So he said, I'll never forget that day. They were talking about a terrorist attack. Then he just says, out of the blue, Sam Harris wrote his book, Attacking Religion.
Do you know the song? Obviously, you know the song Park Life. It's like that. It's just random sentences with the word Park Life.
Sam Harris wrote his book, Attacking Religion. You need some Park Life, get some exercise. It was
Park
a defense of it was a defense of reason against irrationalism as he thought. I agree with him for trying to show the violent nature of the Quran.
Park Life.
The political correct age needs to be challenged at this point, but his demonizing all religious people in Christianity is totally uncalled for. Also, the demonizing of Muslims is not helpful.
What?
But
this is not what he's been saying.
But it's just random sentences he's just put in. Most Muslims are law-abiding people, and it's not fair, F-A-R-E, to lump them with militant extremists. What is the answer to this killing going on in Europe right now? I can only give my journey.
His journey?
On the tram. I started reading and attacking Sam Harris and the New Atheist with venom some 5 years ago. So he's admitting that he was trying to poison people. I'll read it again. I started reading and attacking Sam Harris and the New Atheist with venom some 5 years ago. That's probably venom that he got from a snake given to him by Dr. Boa.
Or Kakuna Kobana.
Yeah, from Ghana.
Christ.
I've heard she likes a nice black mambo. Anyway. So, I was angry at the bullying the New Atheists were doing on the internet. Sam Harris and his fellows, such as Hitchin, seem to demonize Christians. I'll read that again. Sam Harris and his fellows, such as Hitchin, seem to demonize Christians. I started to attack and demonize them. In the end, I realized it only makes things worse. If you do not walk in love but spew out hate, you divide communities and make more conflict. I began to realize attacking Sam Harris and his follows was not what Jesus would do, so I stopped and began to walk in love. Because Jesus said, you don't attack people and their follows, because I don't do it. You should never attack anyone's follows. Not good. Be alert. Britain needs alerts. Anyway, I never found Sam Harris and atheism attractive.
Well, mutual.
For me, the problems with atheism is obviously unattractive. I don't know. Anyway, for me, the problems with atheism and the new atheism were big, too big, spelt with one O. For me, the problems with atheism and the new atheism were too big. Atheism did not answer the big questions of life. Monty Python did. New atheism lacked the scholarship on the historical Jesus to be seen to be credible for me. In my own suffering and struggles, I found Christianity provided a basis for answers and existential satisfaction. I can't get no existential satisfaction. I don't see a political or military victory for the West against militant Islam. I see the West is in decline and the secular... Well, he's already told us it collapsed. I see the West is in decline and the secular agenda is crumbling. We are in a decadent age, both morally and intellectually. I see militant Islam. Oh, bollocks, I'll start again. I see militant Islam only getting stronger in the West in the future. The only hope is for the West to repent and come back to God. The only hope is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Right. In the gospel, the love God shines. Come on,
Blue.
Keep up.
Go.
Park life.
I see the militant Islam only getting stronger in the West in the future. The only hope is for the.
Oh,
The
you've
only-
got to get it.
the
You've got
hope
to
is for
rehearse
that-
that. Rehearse it for next time.
Yeah, I got this. The only hope is the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the gospel, the love God shines. You just want the part life bit, that's all. This love is what we need to bring to the streets of Manchester, the cities of Europe.
Park life.
We must not demonize, but trust Jesus, the God and Savior. Love God and our communities as Jesus did. I love my community. Didn't he?
Park life.
Sam Arris is on record that atheism has to go under the radar.
Park life.
Park life.
What he means, atheism can be attacked for doing bad things in history. Anyway, forget that.
Okay.
Keep going. To avoid that attack by keeping a law profile on some issues of atheism.
A law
profile? Yeah, a law profile is
that's
slightly higher than a low one.
Yeah, it's not just a profile, it's a law profile.
Yeah. The greatest. This is it. This is the last.
Oh,
hash now.
thank fuck for that.
This is the last lines of Jason Burns' literary masterpiece. The greatest need of the time is not to go under the radar, but shout the gospel from the rooftops and live as light, sharing the love of God in a time of hate. Amen.
Hold on, I got to play this one more time, team. I want everybody to hear, because we got to help Jason here. We can't let Jason make this mistake.
My personal life. I'm hoping, by God's grace, to get married. There's a lady in Ghana that I need to go and visit and to get engaged to. I haven't got resources to do that. I haven't got.
Then you can't get married, motherfucker.
To get engaged, like £400 or £500 to go and get a plane flight over there, and then a few £100.
Oh, what flight? A plane flight?
And then after that, I've got to go back and get married, and then got visas to sort out, and all these things.
What a sucker! What a sucker!
Sorry, all the rest.
Jason,
you know the way.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Jason. Don't
And hello,
do it.
hello, Christopher Mouty is in the room, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, Chris. We're trying to prevent Jason from getting married to a woman in Ghana, among other things.
Not just any other woman, but they were so good. She's so good. They named her twice because on the Amazon page they put her name in twice for some strange reason. But
I absolutely love her name. I love saying her name. Dorcas Kakua Kobina.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful name. It's beautiful.
So good they named her twice.
I'll pay for him to go as long as he don't come back.
Burns. Sorry, Burns at the end as well. Burns.
Chris, do you have any thoughts?
Well, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know this woman, so I don't know if she's a good fit for my JB. Right?
Oh, sorry.
Now, if I had a moment to like chat with this young lady, I think that maybe I can get a feel for whether or not she's the right fit for my JBoo.
Right.
I don't think she speaks very good English, but then he's from Manchester and he doesn't speak very good English too. So
That's enough park life now.
Okay, all right.
I just got to read the. Obviously, there's no reviews of the book yet. The Life and Thought of Sam Arris. Book brackets book 211, whatever that means. But it does say that word-wise has been enabled. So I don't know what that means. But just Jason, I know it's been a long time that you've planned and thought this book out. But I'm just blown away.
Great. Thank you to all our 14 viewers.
Got 14. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
I'm one of them as well.
14. I was expecting about 3. That's not bad. Me reading out a book. Fucking hell.
We should all. I think Chris is right. We should all get a chance to talk to Dorcos, Boutros Ghali, to, you know, see if she's the right for Jay or if she just wants a fucking anchor passport. Oh no, Jason.
That's when I first looked at the book on Amazon, and it had Dorcas, and then the last 2 bits of her name written twice. I thought that's a weird name, and then obviously when I bought the book, realised that they just misprinted her name twice by mistake. But even so, she's from Jesus Girl Ministry. But
sounds legit. Yeah.
Obviously, I presume it's in Ghana, Jesus Girl Ministry.
Big shout out to Kevin and Andy Cap, who are also watching. Thanks, guys.
So I'm
He'll listen to you, Andy. Andy, you got to tell him not to marry this woman from Ghana because we think it's a scam. He'll listen to you.
What is he in love?
Can you be in love with a foreigner you've met on the internet?
Well, we don't know.
How can you not?
He doesn't sort of say in Jason's video. He doesn't say that whether he's actually met her. He just says that he, with God's hope, he's going to go and get engaged. But she's obviously in Ghana. So first of all, he's got to get the livestock together. Then he's got to get them on a plane and go to Ghana. Obviously, the livestock will be for the dowry.
Well, he's not going to take the goats with him, though. He's not going to take Manchester goats to Ghana, is he? I don't think.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether EasyJet probably charged too much to take.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
he's got to go to Ghana, and then they're going to get engaged, and then married. He says, but he doesn't say at the same time. So it could be a quick shotgun.
No, it can't be shotgun. No, it can't be shotgun if he's never met her.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Unless he's mailed it in the post.
Or is she already? I mean, the way that she's done her P-reference to Jason, the P-reference was sort of Americanized English. So maybe, but she's in Ghana. So she could be an American that's in Ghana doing some sort of missionary work.
She's probably doing missionary work in Manchester.
Was that a sex joke that went over my head?
A missionary position, probably, yeah.
No, it's that Manchester's pretty. What's the word? Pretty
shit.
Yeah.
I see. You're painting a picture.
So we don't really know where Dorcas is from or where they met, but she's obviously in Ghana at the moment because that's where Jason's got to go to get engaged to her.
Well, I'm just curious, like, why are you guys so skeptical about this? You know, love is love.
Well, because shouldn't we be kind of suspicious of internet relationships to start with? Shouldn't we also be, especially when the people haven't met, shouldn't we be a little suspicious of people from Africa who want to get to England? Maybe not for Jason, but for that passport. There's good reasons to be suspicious.
Well, we don't know if they met on the internet. I reckon they may have met through some godly thing, some religious meetup, or maybe she was over here in England on some sort of.
Which sounds absolutely ungodly to me.
Maybe she was studying here or coming here for a visit, and they met at the local church, and then she said, "Oh, I have to go back to Ghana. Come and marry me. Come and marry me."
Is that your best Ghana accent?
Yeah, well, I was a bit too deep actually, so it was a bit like Monty Python. And there are any girls here? No, yeah, no. Oh.
Poor Jason.
Come on, meet my father.
As Jeff said, who of us has not fancied Jason?
Exactly.
Well, she's probably really pissed off that Jason is quite keen on Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
That is Dillinger. What is a 451 scam? Do you know what that is, Mark?
I presume that must be the 451 would probably be the name of the section or the form you have to fill in or the license you get or something.
I'm from Manchester, by the way. If I didn't agree it was shit, I might be offended. 451, what is that? The marriage form? Must be. Huh.
Yeah, maybe it's the license you get, or it's some sort of. Oh, we're just guessing. We're speculating that Jason's met this woman who's obviously he's going to go to Ghana and get engaged and marry, and then they'll come back, obviously, to live here as man and wife.
Oh my
in the eyes of
God.
God, of course. I just wouldn't like to see Jason taken for a ride. I mean, Auntie's not going to be happy, is she? Is she going to live in this? You know,
He's going to have to clean out that box room to give her her own room.
Well, no, well, if they're married, they obviously have the same room, don't they? You'd think.
She may not want that.
Perhaps they're thinking of bumping Auntie off in some sort of terrible voodoo ceremony. Jason, why have you got a little doll that looks like me?
Aaron Ross should be the best man. That's what Andy says. That's right.
No, Aaron Ra should conduct the ceremony.
I don't know what 451 is. I'm looking it up. I can't see anything.
No,
As Dillinger says, I might have gotten the number wrong. It's the typical letter from Nigerian prince.
Oh,
scam.
I got it.
But this is letter from Ghanaian princess.
Oh,
she might be a man, but she might be a fella. That's the terrible thing. And
Well, no,
would even
what-
Jason know? I mean,
It
poor
could
little
be that her
sod.
father is the king or the prince, and he's got
Right.
he's got 15 million US dollars. He just needs a bank account to siphon it through. And if Jason would like to come over and marry his daughter, they'll get the kingdom and everything in it and live happily ever after.
All right, team. I've given you 2 hours. Thank you so much, Boiled Piss. I'll be hanging out in chat, but I gotta go.
Okie dokie. Well,
He's gone.
well,
That's it.
He's gone. I mean, 2
Bloody
hours
hell.
is probably about right anyway. So I'm probably going
Yep.
to take it off air at this point. So yeah,
Yep,
anyone that's still alive, awake, hasn't taken their own life yet, thanks for watching. Don't bother buying Jason's book because it's a load of crap. And
It's a
not
piece
worth
of shit.
the £3.21 I paid for it. But thank you all very much, and see you soon. Bye bye.